Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. This is a very special episode, and Dan is going to tell you why.
To be fair, you say that about almost every episode.
Every episode is a special episode.
But we're here now.
Very special.
And now is special.
Because I am leaving. See ya.
Dan has been sequestered by the government to do secret podcast missions.
This already feels weird to me because I don't have the headphones on. So I can't hear my own voice. And so this is already a weird experience. But yes, I'm leaving in the capable hands of Jonas, who's our new producer or intern producer. What's
Producer.
The title we want? Intern feels like a low. It's not an intern.
No. And temporary feels like we're just letting him be here. Kind of, we don't want him here, but we do want him here, Jonas.
And I do want to be here.
Welcome, Jonas. So for the dear listener, this is Dan taking a few weeks to go attend to his life while he leaves us in the capable hands of Jonas, who is
protege.
His protege.
Yeah.
His
Sure.
mentee. All right. So goodbye, Dan.
See you guys after.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Dan. Wait, should we get some foot?
No, whatever. I can put it in post. Jonas, add that in post.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. Throughout the episode, Greg is going to make suggestions of like, oh, put this here. Oh, cut that out. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It's just for him.
Don't listen to him. I want you to cut
out.
everything that he just said. That's right. Just cut that out. So for the dear listener, why don't you, Jonas, explain what gives you the right to be here with us?
For sure. So I am a second-year student at Red River for the media production course, which is part of like Creative Communications, and this is like my work placement, so my internship.
Give him the job. A pot of black coffee and all the assistance he can use.
Red River Polytechnic.
Yes, I forgot the Polytech.
Yeah,
I think everybody does.
The new branding.
I don't know if I like it.
I don't. I personally don't.
What was wrong with Technical College? Do we know the reason for the rebrand? Like why the different name?
No, it just kind of came out of nowhere, I feel.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of weird.
Because that's usually like you rebrand when things are going like you kind of want to get some attention on you again, right? It's kind of like relaunching.
Here we are again. We're new. We're fresh. We're different.
So usually it's
or to escape a terrible event.
Yeah,
that you're
it's
trying
never
to
a
cover
good
up for.
reason to rebrand.
Maybe they're trying to cover something up.
Yeah.
Who knows?
If you're out there and you're listening and you know what the real story behind the Red River College rebranding is, get in touch with Jonas.
Okay, I had some questions about CreCom because I've always been curious about that program. Can you walk us through like typical projects and things that you did in first year in CreCom and then how that has changed in second year?
Yeah, for sure. So just like, I guess, a quick overview. Basically, it's like journalism, PR, advertising, and media production. So yeah, you kind of have to go through all of those like classes. And then in the second year, you get to pick what to specialize in. So obviously I specialized in like media production. You kind of just get tossed into it in the first year.
Right. It's just,
but you make a choice to be at Red River in the first place.
That is true. Yeah.
Right.
I knew it was going to be challenging, but I'm like, I want that.
Right.
And I kind of wanted to be pushed into that, you know?
Whatever happens next on the podcast is ultimately your fault because you chose once long ago to join that media production arm. Yep. What is that journey? Tell us that journey. Tell us the Jonas journey.
Yeah. So I think it started in high school. Like, I kind of always, I've been, I really like music. So I was like, I want to be like on the radio. And I think I was going to go to like Herzing or something, but I heard about CreCom and I was like, that sounds like a lot more opportunity. So I kind of went from doing something in high school. I think I took a media production class in high school too. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is something that I could do. And then, I applied to Red River, did the long portfolio to get in, and I surprisingly got in.
What kind of things go into a portfolio?
What's a CreCom portfolio?
Yeah, okay. So it's basically like all the classes that I was talking about, journalism, media production, blah, blah, blah. You have to do like a assignment from each of that. So you have to like look at an ad, write a big thing about it, do a personality profile for journalism. Yeah, and like basically just write a lot. I feel like CreCom's a lot of writing. So yeah, that's what you have to do.
is there a go-to trick you use for writing when you're under pressure? I mean, academia, I think, builds in shortcut mentality of like, oh, I know how to do this way if I can adjust it this way.
Well, it's the imposed deadline that you're not used to up until that point.
Oh, I know it. Yeah,
right?
we all know it well. So tell us what some of those are for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think what just helps me, writing in general is just like sitting down, not even on my laptop, just with a pen and paper, just writing. And like, I think that's like the truest form for me. And that's always where I get my good stuff from. And I can go back, put it on my laptop, edit it, but just initially getting that stuff, because I could sit there forever and just look at my computer and be like, oh, I'm screwed. This is due in like 2 hours. But I think it's really just writing that down and getting that down.
Hey, you guys are really serious, ain't you? Dead serious.
Just starting physically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you ever work on an old school typewriter?
No, that'd be really cool though.
Yeah. Or would it be frustrating? I've never typed anything.
Well, you got to come over. We got old school typewriters at my house. Yeah.
Like, does it jam and the ribbon runs out of it?
Oh, yeah. All those things.
Yeah, all those things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, because ours are like antiques. So they don't really run that great. It's more of a novelty.
Mm-hmm.
You could definitely not compose, I suppose you could compose a great work on it, but I always find that the mechanical aspect of it is such a novelty that I'm paying so much attention to the tool itself that streamlined process you talk about of just a pen and a piece of paper is lost a little bit, right?
Right.
So I guess really what we're talking about there though is whatever you're comfortable working on, where you forget the tool.
I think that's important. That makes me think of like when I get like a new fancy marker or ink pen, and I can never do great work with it off the bat because I'm so fascinated with the tool itself. I'm
the texture it makes, or the tooth of the paper, or the
work is secondary to this new toy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely how it was for me. I did at least 50%, maybe more, of the illustrations for that Moon Patrol huge book with pen and ink, and the other half, more or less half, with a tablet.
Right.
And
that was your big tablet experiment.
And I wanted to play between those two. And so there was always a couple hours every day where just being on the tablet changed the experience of drawing, so that they were basically garbage drawings until I forgot I was on a tablet, and then it would sort of click in.
Yeah, you got to get used to it.
You got to get used to it. So what are those things for you? What have you... Okay, so here's the premise.
Yes.
And for those longtime listeners of the podcast, they'll know my background. But for those of you who this is the first episode, I spent 10 years as a classroom educator. I've worked as a consultant in education. Education is definitely in my blood, and I'm passionate about it. And I'm pretty sure that the modern system is about as broken as it can be. So with all of that up front now, what do you have to say about this program and what it actually taught you so far? Unburden yourself.
Yes, for sure.
Unburden yourself. Why don't we do some rapid fire?
Sure.
All right?
Okay.
You say yes or no.
Yeah.
The program is all it promises to be.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
You learn something that you can use every day.
Yes, for sure.
You have felt that this time is useful to you as a human being, not just as a professional.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, so then this school program has already got 3 pretty good marks.
Now that you're in your second year, is there another program either in Winnipeg or somewhere else in Canada that you wish you'd taken instead, or that like, and is that just because now that you know the direction you're heading, you can go somewhere a little more specialized? Whereas this sounds like it kind of touches on a whole lot of things and then narrows in. Now that you've narrowed in, is there another place you'd like to go to learn more?
Yeah. I feel like maybe in a few years, if I'm still like, okay, I want to focus solely on media production, it'd be nice to just do that. Cause I feel like, yes, I am specializing in media production, but not as much. Like, I feel like we don't get as much hands-on as we should. Like, we've only shot like a couple short films. Like, I feel like that's what I want to do. That's what I was thinking the program was going to be. At the beginning, just like, shoot this, shoot that. And I think we learn like a lot of how to do it, but we don't really get to apply it. So especially with this workplace, it's nice to finally be like, okay, I'm editing a podcast. Like, I've known how to do that, but I never really got to do that.
Right.
So I think that
It's theory and practice, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
So here you are in practice now, right? And we've sent you some media files. And in fact, if you're tuning into this episode, you may be surprised to discover that Dan Vadabon-Kerr, producer extraordinaire, was not the producer of our last episode, but in fact, Jonas was. And so if you liked that episode, and I thought it came together quite well, really, Jonas is to thank for that.
I liked how the clips, like, it took me a while to realize it was the Omen. It was like...
It builds up to it.
It builds up to it. Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
That was a nice touch.
Good touch.
That was a nice touch. So, theory and practice. What are some of the other things that you feel this program is not doing to your satisfaction?
Is there more than one work placement? Like, is this the first and only work placement, or is there going to be another one?
Yeah, because we're pretty disappointing.
Come on, we're pretty cool.
Oh, I love it here. Yeah, there's going to be a second work placement, like in the last semester, so the semester coming up. Yeah, and I'm hoping to do something with like radio, like Power 97 or something.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But no, this is great. Yeah.
I must explain to the listeners that the lag between my voice and those from the moon is due to the vastness of space. It takes 3 seconds, even at the speed of light, for radio waves to travel between the Earth and moon.
So I'm more familiar with, I've worked in film and television a little bit and in theater a little bit, and I know sort of the back side of that industry. That sounded bad. That's not what I meant. We could cut around that, or we couldn't. I guess that's your choice now.
Yeah, I think we're keeping that one in. Yeah.
But with recording and recording technology and the audio, I don't even like, even right now, I don't have the right nouns for the back end of this system. And whenever I've been on a radio interview or gone to a television studio to do an interview or any of that, I'm always marveling at this board full of knobs. And I wonder, what the hell is going on there? Like, don't I just sound like I sound? Like, what is happening? Why don't you help the listener understand some of the stuff you're learning and the stuff that you want to know about and what can actually be done on the audio side?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's a lot easier than like it looks, to be honest. Like, I'm looking at this board right now. I haven't even used it. This is the first time. Dan just showed me how to use it. But I think it's like when you look at a DJ set, like, I think there's only the main knobs here that actually work, and I feel like the rest are just decoration.
I'll sit up there with you and twiddle the knobs just for laughs.
For the listener, it's like a 10 by 10 square with about 40 or 50 knobs on it and a whole bunch of plugs, and it blinks. And Gregory and I have looked at this thing for how many years? We have no idea what it's doing or how it works. But occasionally Dan is twiddling with knobs, and it looks fascinating.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that a person who is not a novice like us, I'll put it in language that I can understand. Sure. If I want to draw with pen and ink, there is a variety of different paperweights. The tooth is a noun you'd use to describe just how much the page grips the medium that you're using. The media that you're using could be, that's another term we use to mean either the pen, the pencil, the paint, the whatever, right? When we get into that minutia, right, I could talk for hours about different nib types, different ink consistencies, the viscosity of certain pens that I can't possibly wield because they're either too fast, too slick, What are some of the sides of audio production that a listener can walk away from and say, I never knew that?
Oh, the noise of the room noise, what's that called?
Room tone. That one I know.
Tell us about room tone. I thought that was so fascinating.
I feel we didn't learn anything about room tone. No, I think that's just stuff that you pick up on. And it's like, okay, yeah, I feel like we didn't.
So this is the theory and practice stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, I think we're literally just, especially because I had Dan. So Dan just taught us directly how to do it. Like the first class, basically, we learned everything that we need to know. Everything that I have done to edit the podcast. Like this week, I've just been learning from that one class. And it's literally just like you cut stuff, basically copy and paste stuff. It's pretty simple, and I feel like anybody can do it if they really want to.
So what you're saying is anyone can do it.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think with technology today, anybody can start a podcast and edit it, and even for free, and you could distribute that and make money.
And it's interesting because this, in a lot of ways, is what we do whenever we're giving a comic seminar, right? One of the things that we're always saying is technology has made it so that anyone can do this. And I don't think that is the traction that many would see that summation as being. Like a lot of people say, well, if anyone can do it, then where's the skill? Now, will is the important part. If anyone can, who's going to, and should they?
Yeah. That's
right. So you're going to. Why should you?
I think it's a lot of fun. Like if you're passionate about audio, I think you can find it. Like when I'm editing the podcast, it's not something that I'm like, oh, this feels like a chore. This is like, it's fun to finally like, for me, I think it's the same with like video as like audio. It's like when it all comes together, it's like nice. When I'm done the podcast, I'm like, okay, it sounds good. I'm glad people can listen to this, you know?
So you mentioned short films, that is more of your passion. Your eyes literally lit up in your disappointment and fire of not being able to make more short films. Why don't you tell us about this process? What is this storytelling media for you?
Yeah, no, I've just always really liked, I guess, telling stories. And I think, I mean, obviously, like, you know, art tells stories. And yeah, I think it's just fun to have, you know, create a story and have those images and be like, hey, this is my vision, you know, you can really put that out there. And it's fun.
Yeah, and that was my question. Like in 10 years, ideally, like what would you like to be doing and working on? It sounds like it'd be shooting longer films, like
writing and directing. Is that the goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think either of them. Like I like writing stuff and I also like shooting stuff. So it'd be cool to have like some sort of outlet to do that, either like a production house or something that, you know, either I could write or it would just be kind of like, I guess, a collective. That would be cool. Really, a collective of people to write and shoot stuff with and ideally make money.
Yeah. And that's the step, right? So here's a big question. How often do you shoot your own films? How often do you do it for free? Your ability to make money at it will be determined by how good you are at it, and how good you are at it will be determined by how often you do it for free because you just want to get good at it. So, you know, theory and practice again. So how often do you practice? How much do you do on your own time?
I feel like with school, I've had like no time to do that. But like I have a few friends who are like interested in like videography and stuff. And like in high school, we would do stuff like shoot stuff just for fun. So definitely it's like something that I want to do once school is done. But I feel like I don't really have much time outside of school.
You'll never have more time than you have while you're at school. I hate to break it to you. School is full of time. It's all structure. And the only real stress is imaginary stress because they're your teachers. They actually have no power. They work for you. They have no power over you.
I might have to, like, Red River was pretty intense. I
did a Red River program there too, but
yeah, like the condensed program was, you basically learn how to like live without sleep. But then after, when I had a normal job, the fact that my work ended at 5:00 was really weird.
Oh, okay.
And then, so I filled I had been running on this like gear of like working 14, 16-hour days. So when I started, like a 9 to 5 seemed so easy. And then I had all this leftover like energy and inspiration to do all the stuff on the side. So that's when I feel like I really developed my own style and stuff. Was
interesting. My relationship with school has always been that the actual time that you're at school feels like they could do it in so much less time. And I always feel like my actual school day is so full of other time to think about things because it's not that onerous, the curriculum, the way it's laid out, right? Because there's not enough practice. If there was more hands-on stuff, then of course you'd sweat it more. But since so much of academia is just think about it and write it down, well, you know, that doesn't honestly take that long compared to compose something or, you know, have something to show for it. If you actually had something to show for it at the end, I feel like that would be better.
If this program was anything like the graphic design program, is basically like, here's the program, here's how it works. Now make us this.
Right.
And every class was kind of a version of that. Like, here's InDesign, make us a newspaper layout. Here's Illustrator, make us this logo. Here's Photoshop, edit these things, you know? So it was just jumping into, so you just had like a mountain of projects and you just learned the program as you built the thing. So you were, you got to get some real world application in there.
Yeah, that's exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best way to learn anything, right? Is just have something to do with it.
Got a lot to do in 17 hours.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. But like you were saying, it's basically like I get up and then I'm working until like I sleep. Like I don't really have any time in between. That's like what you were saying, you know. after you're done school, you're like, oh, I have this time after. It's like my day ends at 5. I can do that stuff that I want to do.
Yeah.
Really like hone your skills, you know? Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping. When school's done.
That's what I found. Yeah. By the time I was done with that program, I was shocked to have free time after work. And so I filled it with projects.
So one of the things you had to do was do like media profiles or do interviews or things like that.
Yeah.
So let's turn it over to you now. Let's let you lead the conversation. Put you in charge. Anything you want to ask us or anything you want to put us on the spot about.
Yeah, I guess where do you guys see yourselves in like, let's say 5 years? Where do you hope to be in your careers?
A great question, because then you can think about your next question while we're answering. You don't even have to pay that close attention. Justin, go. 5 years, 10 years?
Let's go 5 years.
5 years. Okay, 5-year plan, Justin.
5-year plan. Ideally, in 5 years, I would like to be, right now, my freelance and my posters are kind of the bulk of my income, and my books are probably like 15-20%. In 5-10 years, I'd like that to 180. I'd like my whatever books I'm working on to be able to make 85% of my income, and the posters and the Comic-Cons and everything else be the smaller chunk of that. I love making graphic novels, but they take a ton of time, and it takes a while to make that money back. You know, you have to spend $15,000-$25,000 to get this thing made. Since I'm self-publishing a lot of these books, it's kind of on me to get that back. And I've been building a good enough audience that I can do that in a relatively short amount of time, but I want it to be bigger and better. I look at people like Ross Draws, is this artist I follow, and like every time he releases a book, it's like an immediate, 5,000 sale. Like the run is
sold out.
He has to do a massive run, and it immediately, like I want that. I want people to be super hungry for my books, and so I know I can spend a year or two making a book, and there's a payoff at the end of that, not like kind of a slow, steady stream back.
See, that prompted 2 questions that I want to ask him now. This is what makes it a good question, Jonas, is that it makes me think of 2 other things.
Well, at least I'm still alive to see this.
They'll break their necks to get you back and raise your rank when they see what this can do.
1, do you think it's just proportional to the size of your audience that will cause those sales to happen? Like if 0.01% of your social media following is actively then turning and buying it, then are you just needing to grow that following by any means necessary? Or do you think quality is going to be the deciding factor?
I think most of my audience is there for my posters, and a small chunk is there for the books. And I'm hoping with the more books I make and the better they get, that book buying audience will grow and grow. So yeah, I'll get more people with eyes on my stuff and specifically interested in the stories, not just the posters and the artwork. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
You've examined our model. You've seen our little picture. I hope by now we've succeeded in dispelling some of your original skepticism.
Why? Why do you want to change?
I think because I think in long term, like prints and posters are kind of great short term. I can make one in a day or two. I can make money off it like pretty immediately, and especially if I'm doing a Comic-Con, I can make that money back. But if I like skip ahead when I'm like 65, I don't want a room full of posters. I want shelves full of books that I've made. I think that leaves more of a legacy for me as an artist than just the paintings, especially like in the industry that I'm in. I want to have some prolific books, not just cool posters.
Yeah, interesting. Great. I guess it's my turn to answer that question.
No, yeah.
So 5 years. Well, one thing that's changed a lot for me in the last while, if we go into the Wayback Machine, when I first, quote unquote, broke into comics, it was the idea that I had a very weird, like, what we would call photo bashing these days style of collage and storytelling. And I was writing my own work and making the art for it. And everyone was saying, it's too weird. It's too weird. It's not what we do. It's too weird. And I got so many times told, I like it, but it's not the kind of stuff we publish. That's what prompted me to go into self-publishing the first volume of the Imagination Manifesto. And I got it in my head that I could do it all, that I could do everything, and it would be warts and all. There'd be tons of mistakes you'd make along the way, but you'd get a book made. And at this stage in my career, all these years later, I realize how important it is to work with people who are equally passionate, equally driven, and honestly, equally interested in becoming more interesting people by the work that they're doing, not just immediately getting some monetary return. And as I work in more and more groups like that, I realize that because I can write and do art and do some project management, it's okay if I'm not totally in control of all of it. Like I can let go of some of that control. And convincing recently, like on a project we're doing for heavy metal, my co-conspirator, Dr. Jonathan Ball, has been so generous about releasing the reins to me that sometimes I push for more structure from him. Like I want it to go back and forth. And I realized, oh, wait, he's training me to just be, okay, yes, that artist has this input on that project. Justin has done that for me many times, that when I just lean into what his solution is, it's often better than what I have because they are expressing a different side of the story through different tools that I don't have. And so if I look forward for 5 years ahead, I would love to have more books on the shelves that are collaborations where I'm writing it, someone else is illustrating it, I'm illustrating it, and I've given those reins over to that writer a little more than I'm used to doing. And having some, if we're talking in terms of this legacy, a legacy of more cooperation in getting the ideas out there and having more people brought along on that journey. I think that's a big step for me.
You really want to build that A team.
Yeah, I do. And those of you who, for months, I mean, many of our projects have not been announced yet, but we've been working hard together. And I know you're listeners of the podcast. I love you all. And I can't wait for our books all to come out. But the other side of it is that I've been really interested in the film and television side. And I would love to roll my sleeves up. And I've been in a writer's room experience a few times, but only in a very minor capacity. I'd love to really dive into a scenario like that and see that entire pipeline. What of the words and what of my ideas could survive the pipeline? That's often how it gets discussed. It's like, oh yeah, I worked on that show and my idea is there, right? It made it all the way through the various labyrinthine, bureaucratic nightmares of getting your idea from inception to conception. I like that process. And luckily, I've had a really good relationship with rejection. And so I don't sweat it when the idea gets cut. And I feel like that's of an advantage to a writing team. I got lots of ideas and I don't mind being told no. And I just want to try and figure out a way to parlay that into another facet of experiences for me. And then the other thing on that 5-year horizon is for sure to have the role-playing games we've been working on for years in the market. Right? Tested. I'd like to have at least 1,000 people. I made a little note for myself, actually, a 3-year plan that in the next 3 years, I want at least 1,000 people to have played and liked playing, right? The role-playing games we're making, which means we probably have to get 10,000 of those games into people's hands because not everyone likes everything, right? And how hard will I have to work to get 1,000 people who are like, yeah, I'd play that again. Right? That's sort of in my mindset. And to find a way in education to combine storytelling as a curricular outcome with the following rationale. If you know how to make stories, you have been inoculated against people who can tell lies. A lie is just a story. It's a well-constructed story. And if you know how to construct a story, right, you can see through the misinformation and disinformation of media in a way that is healthy. And so I feel like the real tool there is just storytelling, rolling up your sleeves and getting down into it. I made a career of that in education. I'd like to do that. So those sort of are the things that in the next 5 years I really want to focus on, right? And, Justin, what I always say, We'll be dead soon, so we got to
We'll be dead
just
soon.
get to it. It's good to have lots of stuff on
I thought
your
you were going to
list.
say something about transmuting, but yeah, we'll be dead soon. So.
Yeah, no, that's my other go-to. Yeah,
That too.
yeah.
Out of both of your guys' projects, is there one thing that you would want like adapted into like a film or like?
Oh, Justin's hand went up immediately. Look, his eyes are so bright.
What's your pitch, General?
I'll tell you.
Wait a minute.
My next graphic novel is based on like the RPG video games that I played growing up and loved, and so I'm essentially writing a graphic novel, but basically building all the assets that you would need to make an RPG game. And the ultimate goal of this book is I want to make my own RPG, but I don't have the team or the resources to make an actual video game. But if I make like a fairly kick-ass graphic novel that gets a following, the chances of that being adapted into a playable demo and maybe like picked up by some team who can make it is way, way more than me just trying to get it made with an idea.
And in the interest of clarity, we come from there's a watershed in our age bracket. So when I say RPGs or role-playing games, I mean tabletop role-playing games, which is a separate thing from RPGs as they're more commonly
Final
known.
Fantasy VII,
Yeah,
Chrono
in the
Cross,
video game world, it's sort of like there's been an adjustment for how people use those terms. So we both use the term, but we mean different things. It's interesting.
Like technically, I think JRPG, like Japanese role-playing game, but I just grew up, they were always called RPGs.
Yeah, right. Your book also, we should clarify that this book is written like and has the feeling of an old RPG strategy guide, video game strategy guide for a game that is imaginary, doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. So in the early 90s, a lot of these really big RPGs, they were full of secrets, and a lot of them were pretty hard. So I would often get the strategy guide to go with the game. If you're going to put 100 hours into this game, I kind of want to know how to find everything and get all the secret weapons and blah, blah, blah. And especially early on, they would also detail the entire story in the strategy guide. They don't do this anymore. Now they don't give any spoilers or any story. It's just how to beat the game. But back in the day, they would like show you screenshots of exactly when it would like cut to a cinematic movie in the game. They would show that in the strategy guide and explain like what's happening in the story. So you could read it almost like a book. So I could read the strategy guide of Final Fantasy VII and read the entire story.
I remember doing that for a few different games where it felt like I'd played it at the end.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why they don't do it.
And well, yeah, I think people kind of got like upset. You're revealing all the cool stuff that happens in the game. People don't get to, experience it for the first time while they're playing. But that's what I want to kind of accomplish with this book. I want you to be able to read it and feel like you played an 80-hour RPG.
Yeah, it's a wild idea.
I love that.
Yeah, you should see the art for it. It's fantastic. I've got to peek behind the curtain of Justin's creative process here.
And for the dear listener, I will see. I want to say I'm going to post about it soon, but I've learned through experience to not get too excited and jump the gun. So once I've got about 6 or 7 completed pages. I have a bunch of it planned out and storyboarded, but I don't want to be announcing things until I can start to put kind of dates and plans to go with it. So not just saying like, here's something cool I'm working on. I want to be able to say, here's my next book. Here's when it's going to be on Kickstarter. Here's where you can go to like follow. So
if someone's actually interested, they can do something with that information. Yeah.
That's exactly right as far as appearance goes. All that remains now is to test it.
Yeah. Interesting. I was going to ask you a question related to that.
Movies,
well, yeah,
games?
This past year we've gotten 2 short films that I wrote have been on the festival circuit. Not of This Earth has won a bunch of awards and stuff. And it's just, they're very small. I don't want to miscategorize. These are short film projects, micro budget projects with ambitious ideas inside them, but they are projects where I was just part of the team. Again, this comes back around. A thing that would not have ever existed if it was solely up to me. Impossible, right? There had to be other people involved in the vision. And I get to, now that it's done, look at it and say, enough of my idea is on the screen that I feel good that my name is listed there as the writer, as opposed to some projects that I've been involved in where I'm like, okay, they didn't give me credit, but I actually don't want it now either. So that's great.
Did they not, they took like a version of your idea?
Yeah. So like sometimes if you write for anything related to TV, the last person who touches the script gets credit. Right. So everyone that's come before, it might have been 5 or 10 writers that have worked on a thing. Their names are expunged and only that final version.
All right, Joe. We've got too much to do and too little time for any more clowning. Let's get on with the schedule.
If like anybody with a household name that is listed as the writer of that film, I immediately think like there's probably 10 other writers that did the bulk of it, and Jim from The Office came in and tweaked it.
Well, that's a good example. I think, what's that movie called?
Quiet Place?
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
I believe it was a script they bought from somebody else. Yeah. And so they did a rewrite at the end. But
he is listed as the writer and director?
Well, yeah, it's writer, director, star. And he's not the writer. He did write part of it. So, yeah. I find that part of it also a minor bone of contention. I fight it as often as I can. It goes right back to our first collaboration, Justin, where I said, no, we have to put your name first, even if it's not the done thing. Otherwise, they'll always list, when it starts getting listed in bookstores, it'll always list me as if the project happened without you.
Yeah, graphic novels, the writer's kind of, her name is the important one. The illustrator is always kind of secondary.
According to book marketing.
Yes.
And that's utter bullshit, honestly. So you just have to kind of navigate that. And it's slowly changing. And, even with us, Lyndon Rachenka is listed now among the creator credits on iCollector. He's the letterer on the book. We couldn't finish the book without him. So why would we leave his name out of all the marketing of it? It seems strange, right? But it's not the done thing. And it's hard because media is becoming increasingly single serving. And people can't remember everything. If you give them 3 names to remember, they won't. And I understand the rationale behind it, but something can work and be wrong at the same time. And so I want to try to correct that in the small ways that we can.
Yeah.
That's my little red wagon, right? So make sure when you're uploading the episodes you worked on that you list yourself as producer. Scrub Dan's name right out of there.
I was happy to.
Right? Right? And so that's part of it. Yeah. I don't know. I lost my train of thought there as I got fired up about credits.
Time for another question.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. So if you could go back in your career, is there something that you would do differently, like a moment that you would redo, or just do differently?
Oh, I'm not big. I don't like focusing on regrets, but I wish I had learned earlier the lesson of sell your strengths and buy your weaknesses. I would have got into comics a lot sooner if I hadn't believed that I needed it to be perfect. And so I had to learn everything. If I had instead gotten involved in a team earlier, my work would be very different. It would have changed the entire trajectory of my life, I'm sure. But, Jack Kirby is famously quoted as, comics will break your heart, kid. And I took that to heart early on. Like, don't overexpose your things to other creative influences until you're ready to. And so I insulated and was a little bit megalomania. I had some of that in getting the projects together. So I protected myself, and maybe I didn't need to be quite so protective. But then I've also met some really shitty predatory people in publishing. And so I was old enough by the time I was doing it seriously that I could navigate that. If I had been 10 years younger or 20 years younger, I for sure would have been taken advantage of in a much more significant way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Like any regrets I think about, had I not gone through that experience, then I wouldn't have known, and maybe I would have had a much worse experience later down.
Yeah.
Later down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. One thing that you can take away, though, is due diligence. There was not at the time when I was breaking in the ability to reach out to creative people who had worked with a publisher in the past and ask them, are they honest? Did they fulfill their contract? That sort of wasn't available to me when I was
so
starting.
easy now.
But now you can just tweet a person and be like, hey, do you mind if I message you about this publisher? Are they
half a
good or
dozen
bad?
times this year I've just like on Instagram, just direct message like, hey, I was thinking of working for this company. I saw you did. How'd it go?
Yeah.
And like 9 times out of 10 people are more than happy to give their review.
Yeah. And the Whisper Network, tells the truth in those DMs pretty straight. Like, a couple of different comic companies that I was looking at possibly sending pitches to. I did the same thing, reached out to some folks and said, what was it like to work with them? They're like, oh, well, they got the book out on time, but it's 2 years later and I've never seen a dime, that kind of stuff. So you can get that information now. You can have it at your fingertips. And other people have reached out to us for that information, and we give it freely because how else are we going to stay safe?
Yeah.
I've got one. It's a bit of a story.
We'll know when we get there. We'll tell you when we get back. It's a venture I don't want to be left out of.
I participated in a local comic convention really early on in my career where they had an artist alley, but you weren't allowed to sell your own stuff. You gave them your artwork and they sold it for you. And so as soon as it was
I've been in these environments.
as soon as it was explained to me this is how it was going to work, I was going to hand my portfolio over to some random people and they were going to be the ones selling my artwork. I was like, that I don't want to do that. But I was new. This was like my 3rd or 4th convention. I was hungry. I wanted to like, make a name for myself locally. So I'm like, I got to be in this convention. It's a fairly large convention that happens in town. And so I handed off 2 or 3 portfolios full of work and I attended the convention. So I got to like see how they'd set everything up. And again, like nobody's going to sell your stuff as well as you can.
Yeah,
so
no, for sure.
It was a little lackluster, but whatever. And so the convention ended and a couple days later, I went to pick up my portfolio and they had to give me the news that you didn't sell a thing. We have no money for you. Like there's no proceeds for you. I was really disappointed. I was like, I thought I had some great artwork in there. Like there was a lot of artwork at this show, but every show I've gone to, I sell a couple things. This is really disappointing. So I get back in the car, I drive home, I go to unload the portfolios and there are pages and pages of missing artwork. There has been like a huge amount of artwork is gone from my portfolios. So I get on the phone and phone up the person who had like half an hour ago looked me in the eye as they handed my portfolios back and said, you didn't sell anything. And I asked, okay, so there's a whole bunch of artwork missing. What happened? She's like, oh yeah, somebody stole a whole bunch of money from the artist alley. So they sold your artwork and pocketed everything. So
they didn't tell you at the moment.
Didn't tell me, just told me that I didn't make any sales. And then they said, okay, so we've had like this happen to a whole bunch of artists. Their artwork was stolen. So if you give us a bunch of your artwork back, we can then auction it and give you back the money from the auction.
Oh, that's such insult to injury.
So that I think I could have done without that experience. I don't think I learned anything.
I'm not wasting my time crying about that anymore.
Let me ask you though. Didn't you though? I've never heard you participate in any show like it since. This is how the Portland Horror Con also ran. So I was a featured guest or an invited artist, or I forget, they had a term for it, but they said, we're going to showcase your work. You can put your work in our art show. You can come out to Portland and be in there. And it was a wonderful experience. And I did sell some things, but it was all by proxy. You were not allowed to be present with your work, sort of repping it or selling it or whatever, because they kind of felt that some people were better at it than others and they wanted the work to stand for itself.
Yeah, is that the rationale? Like just some artists are introverted, so we have better salespeople?
I guess so.
Or do they just want to control the flow of money?
All of those things are true. I'm sure. I mean, it's a collection of lots of different boxes that people are ticking. But what the result, the corollary is that not very, very much artwork is sold because
You want it signed by the artist. That makes it
the
so much
artist
more
themselves is not present. And that is part of that experience. You want to connect with the work on a human level. Not everyone does. So I get, galleries do their thing. But there's a reason why we don't seek out too much gallery representation either, because there is a lackluster representation of the work often in a gallery setting where the hype is about the champagne that's being served and not the art itself.
We should have our neighbor Vlad is, I think, doing galleries right. He's a fine artist. He does amazing things. Yeah. I'd like to get his, because I think you and I, we just don't put any time or effort into that world, so we don't get anything out of it. But I'd love to hear from him, who's making his living selling amazing artwork in galleries, how that whole system works and how he's made it into his living. Yeah. So I think that's just my bias. I have an Emperor's New Clothes bias about that. And so I'm right up front with my bias. I'm kind of there with you.
I know too many people who have Emperor's New Clothes their way into new cars or houses, basically selling MacGuffins rather than artwork. And I just find that so distasteful. So I try to avoid it. But I mean, is it any different than us being like, hey, you'll probably like this book? And we hand it to someone. How do they know? Right? So
that's $25 versus $11,000.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
It either works or it doesn't. It's a one-time deal.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is just probably like an easy question, but I honestly want to know, like, for people who are looking to get into comic books, what is something that you would want them to know? Like drawing comic books, I guess. Drawing, illustrations.
I would first ask them, what kind of books do they want to be making? And that's really important, because if you're slicing comics work into its different pieces, Marvel and people who want to do Marvel and DC regular work, I have no advice for you. I don't do that work. I'm not the person to ask. I actually, people call that. And there's a big pause because I'm cycling through all of these not very great ways of discussing how that work gets produced. It's so often corporately minded that there's very little, I don't want to say merit. There's some great comics. I collect Marvel comics. There's some DC books I really like. Dark Horse puts out huge volumes of work that I buy and collect. There's nothing wrong with doing corporate owned comics. But I don't do those, so I can't really give
something with
people
a little more heart.
Yeah, I can't be the person to give that advice. If you want to make work of your own, the advice I would give is every day finish a panel and don't fix it until the book is done. Right? So every day, get home after your job, add another panel to the story. Don't look at yesterday's panel and say, oh, I should fix that, I should change that or whatever. Move forward until you have a complete work. It could be a 1-page story, it could be a 2-page story, it could be a 100-page epic, could be 1,000 pages, but get all the way to the end and then begin changing things. Because if you change it as you're making it, you will never finish. And if you don't finish, you can't show it to an editor. And if you can't show it to an editor, it can never be published.
Yeah, similar to that, like if I'm at a convention, a lot of people will come up and they want to make a comic, they want to make a graphic novel. And usually the first thing that I ask them about is, do you have any pages finished? Like if you want to draw a graphic novel, but you haven't completed like a 12-page story on your own, you need to do that before anybody's going to start looking at you even semi-seriously. Mm-hmm. You have to finish some work under your own steam before I'm going to invest my time and money to making your project happen, or anybody else is going to invest into that. And that was something that's like, I went through that as well. Like before Greg and I were working together, I approached him about working on a comic, but I'd made like 3 or 4 pages of comics before, but like nothing substantial. I didn't have any kind of plan. I hadn't made enough pages on my own. And so, yeah, there wasn't anything to take seriously there. And I had to, once I had 30 pages of a graphic novel kind of created, that's when people actually wanted to start having making comics conversations with me. So until you finish like even just a short story, even just 5 pages, finish that, and then you can start talking about making comics with other people.
What about the money?
That's not the problem. It's production. That's why I came to you. You're a production man. The problem right now is one of research, designing, special materials, specialized skills.
Yeah, zine culture is great for that. You can just, it doesn't have to be some big hardcover, luscious, accomplishment. You can just bash out your comics, a few black and white pages, print them on 8.5 by 11, fold it in the middle, staple it. But now you can hand it to someone and they can see your storytelling chops.
Because most people have not done that. Most people just love the idea, but have never put pencil to paper.
Yeah. So
make some pages.
Yeah. Make some pages and tell short stories. Even if your story you want to tell is enormous.
You're not ready for it yet.
You aren't ready. Yeah. And the one thing that was advice I took, I should say, when I made the Imagination Manifesto, it's a collection of short stories. And each of those short stories, for all of their successes or failures, I use a different coloring technique in each one, a slightly different art technique in each one. And I was feeling out what I was capable of and not settling on one specific style. And it didn't make a whole book uneven. It made each short story stand out from the ones in the
filmmakers
collection.
As well, right? Like, you're not going to shoot your 2-hour epic movie that you have in your head right off the bat. You're going to do a bunch of short films, and you kind of learn what you need to learn along the way. And eventually you get into bigger and bigger projects until you finally can make your Lord of the Rings-esque epic. But you'll need to make all those little projects before you're going to be close to being ready for that really big one that you really, want to make.
Yeah. And no project you ever do for the money is going to be as important to you as the one you did for yourself. And so if that means you have to have a day job in order to make projects for yourself, then great. Now you're free to make projects for yourself. I find the tragedy is people who say, well, I'm going to get this day job so I can make projects for myself. And then they forget that they were ever going to do anything for themselves. And instead, they go to work and watch TV as their great life's pursuits. Right?
There's a lot of good TV out there.
Increasingly. I know. It's hard. There are a lot of temptations in the world, Justin, but sometimes you have to say no in order to accomplish some things for yourselves.
What are the types of short films you want to make? And what is that leading up to? What would be in 5-10 years when you get a chance to make, say, a feature-length film? What's that film?
Oh, that's a beautiful closer round.
I've just been so consumed with school that all my energy and creativity has been just put into that. But I know my good friend, he has like a bunch of like sci-fi like stories that he's already written.
Yeah.
And I think that it'd be cool to like collaborate with him because he's also into video to like flesh those out. Like, we've talked about that. And I think like last summer, it's like, okay, we were going to do it. And then like, we were like working and we didn't have the time. But like,
you need to make friends with a DMT student so they can do like the 3D effects. And
yeah, that'd be cool. For sure. Yeah. But just turning like stories that, we already have there into like longer pieces, I guess, and like putting them into video would be cool.
Is there not now so many archives of monthly subscription, good content video? Could not a person who was good with audio stitch together their own movie with some voiceover rather than, like if you were to, and I'm not talking about like feature length films, I'm talking about 2 or 3 minute things. Peter Tchaikovsky uses story engine prompts to write his super, trying to think of what the actual phrase he uses in his website, but they're these micro stories. There's these very powerful, very short stories. And he's gone on to social media and using stock footage, cut these little short stories into pretty powerful, like 40-second little films, like micro stories. But social media, of course, eats it up, and he tried an experiment. I wanted to see if anyone cares. And then, suddenly he's got 1 million people looking at these things. So there are definitely tools out there for people who know their way around those little knobs that we were talking about.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool to cut something through there. Yeah.
What would I need to know? What would we need to know?
Even like my girlfriend makes instructional videos with a program called Beyond, and it's just a whole bunch of prefabbed characters, environments, and settings and stuff like that. And like, you essentially make a South Park movie without having to know any animation or anything like that, because you have just thousands of pre-made assets ready to go. And I wonder even like that as a great starting point to practice making, because you won't have access to, you know, actors and sets and environments, like building it out of stuff like that.
Yeah, no, my son's been interested in making film projects, and so started getting into stop motion simply because then he had total control of the characters, but also starts learning all of these different lighting techniques, right? Where he is master of the entire production, but is really learning advanced lighting processes that are, you know, I think most people don't consider at all as a result of just experimenting and just like playing and, you know, essentially just doing, you know, you would say because he's a kid, he's playing, but the truth is he's practicing, right? With something he's interested in doing. And, you know, what were those things like when you were but a young lad?
Yeah. It's a good question. Yeah, I think it was just like making like stupid like short films with like iMovie on my phone, just like random stuff like that. But then it was kind of like, oh, like I could do that, you know, for a living. And it's like, I still enjoy to do that. But like you were saying with like drawing, I think it's just like getting into it, like just, you know, every day doing something a little bit and kind of like progressing, because you're not going to make that huge film or you're not going to make that huge book off the top, but it's just like getting started really.
Let's make it conditional to your work placement here, that every day you have to spend at least a half an hour writing out your own ideas, which you don't have to share with us or show to us. We'll do it on the honor system. Yep. But every day you spend a half an hour saying, I don't care what anyone else thinks. This is just for me. And collected that all in one place. And at the end of this work placement, you go through that and look through it and say, okay, now what can I do with this work? And you'll find that, you know, people who are into finance will talk about compound interest all the time and how important it is to put a little away because it always builds up. Creative ideas are the same, right? You can accrue it over time if you just always put it down in one place. And for the dear listener, I was waving my notebook at Jonas while we were saying that. You just keep putting into one place. And eventually there's some stuff in there that's maybe of use by accident. It's like the 100 monkeys on 100 typewriters, right? On 100 days, something good will come out of it. You can be your own monkey, right? And just keep putting stuff down. Eventually something's going to come out that's of use.
I love that. It's going to be the name of the episode right there.
100 monkeys on 100 typewriters.
Be your own monkey.
Be your own monkey.
I feel like it's 1,000 or more. I don't think.
Yeah, but technology is advanced. The monkeys are much better now.
They're much better. Yeah, they've gotten better.
The monkeys have gotten better.
Yeah. I feel like there's a formula to that. Like the amount of hours you put into something, good stuff starts happening at X point, right? The 100 hours of drawing, the 100 hours of writing, nothing good is going to happen until hour 101. And so you just need to get that crap out of your system so you can get to that good hour.
Yeah. In other contexts, my father used to say to me that it's, I guess at one point he must have had a job digging ditches or something. This is how it came out. But that imagine you're in a ditch and there's a pipe there. And that pipe, you know, goes all the way to the other side of the road, right? In the other ditch. And you can put things at this end of the pipe. You can keep pushing them in there and it won't immediately look like anything's happening on the other end. But if you keep putting things in that pipe, eventually stuff starts coming out the other side. And that's what drawing and creative life is like. For a long time, you're under the road. People are driving and walking all over you while you keep putting stuff in the pipe. But eventually it starts coming out the other side. And people are like amazed. They look at it and they're like, wow, right? Oh.
Because that's all they see is what comes out. They don't realize it. Yeah.
How long it took, right? They're like, wow. So, you know, start that pipeline now. And then you don't have to be like a haggard old man like me when you start. You can start now while you're young and full of vigor.
Start the journey.
Start that journey. This has been Super Pulp Science. We're here with Jonas, our new producer. See ya, Dan. This is Gregory Communications encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.